The stone city of Machu Picchu is one of the most fascinating archaeological sites on the planet. Carved into the mountains of Peru are stone structures so precise they defy the limits of ancient engineering. Blocks weighing tens of tons interlock flawlessly. No binding material, no visible errors, no clear method of construction. For generations, researchers proposed theories, ran calculations, and argued timelines. Yet, none could fully explain what we see. But now, advanced imaging, material analysis, and long ignored evidence are rewriting the story. What these ruins truly represent is finally coming into focus. And the reality is more unsettling than the legends ever suggested. The enigma of the Andes, what we see today, high above the cloud line, where the thin air bites and the mountains, stretched like sleeping giants, lies a mystery carved in stone. At first glance, the massive walls of Huaman, perched above the ancient city of Cusco, seem like relics of another age, but step closer, and the enigma deepens. Immense blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, are locked together with precision that seems beyond even modern construction. No mortar, no wiggle room, just seamless interlocking perfection that has stood unshaken for centuries. Through floods, invasions, and earthquakes that have reduced entire cities to rubble. Travel further to Ollantaytambo and the riddle intensifies. At nearly 9,200 feet above sea level, this fortress temple complex holds stones so massive engineers today admit it would be a challenge to move them with modern cranes. These monoliths were somehow quarried, shaped, and hauled uphill through steep, rugged terrain without wheels, steel, or even written language. The site is more than a marvel. It's a defiance of logic. Then there's Machu Picchu, the jewel of the Inca Empire, often admired for its beauty, but rarely understood for its impossible construction. Built on a razor-thin mountain ridge, prone to landslides and earthquakes, the city rests atop a web of terraces and drainage systems that show not just engineering know-how, but long-term environmental planning. The stones here, too, are perfectly cut and joined, even under microscope-level scrutiny. Some seams are so tight that not even a human hair can slip through. Everywhere in these ruins, there's a pattern, advanced design principles, meticulous craftsmanship, and megalithic stones that had to be moved and placed with a precision we associate with digital machines, not primitive tools. What makes this more than awe-inspiring is the choice of material. These structures aren't made of soft limestone or clay. Many are constructed from diorite and stone so hard they rank just below diamond on the Mohs hardness scale. Yet the ancient builders shaped them with curves, angles, and joints that appear melted or molded. Something not possible with the bronze or copper tools known to exist at the time. Modern geologists and surveyors have taken measurements, traced quarries miles away, and tried to reconstruct the logistics. But even with all our cranes, trucks, and lasers, the process of cutting, transporting, and fitting these stones remains almost entirely unexplained. The quarries for Huaman, for instance, lie several kilometers away, and the route includes deep ravines, sharp inclines, and no flat roads. There are no records of wheels, draft animals capable of such loads, or advanced tools, just stone placed against stone, with almost supernatural perfection. Even more puzzling is how these ruins have survived centuries of seismic unrest. Peru rests on a fault line, and earthquakes have repeatedly rattled its cities. Spanish colonial buildings constructed centuries later using European masonry methods collapsed under the strain. Yet, these ancient megalithic walls bent and endured exactly as if they were engineered to resist violent tectonic movement. It wasn't chance, it was design. The farther you travel into the Andes, the more evidence appears. Dozens of lesser-known locations, Pisac, Taipan, Moray, display the same hallmark. Perfect masonry, high altitude, building, and baffling stonework. Every site, regardless of isolation, bears the clear mark of an intelligence that grasped landscape, longevity, and material far beyond what conventional regional history records The size, accuracy, and materials challenge every standard assumption of what ancient societies should have achieved. This is not about crude shelters or even basic pyramids. This is something entirely different. An architectural signature suggesting lost knowledge or an intellect far more advanced than history permits. So, how was it done? How were these megalithic wonders shaped, transported, and locked together with such unreal precision without the tools, methods, or technology we depend on today? Impossible engineering. The evidence, defying human limits, stand before the megalithic walls of Sacsayhuaman or the Sun Temple of Ollantaytambo, and a single question overwhelms the mind. How? Not how amazing, but literally how was this accomplished? Because regardless of how deeply you search through textbooks, engineering guides, or historical documents, clear answers don't exist. What remains is physical proof, stone, measurement, mass, and geometry that challenges everything we believed about ancient construction. Let's start with sheer magnitude. Some stones at Peru's highland sites weigh between 5 and 120 tons. A few are estimated to surpass 200 tons. These were not created on location using nearby rock. Many were hauled from quarries miles away, not across level ground, but along rugged mountain paths, over rivers, and up sharp slopes. There's no proof of wheels, no beasts capable of pulling such loads, and no remnants of infrastructure required for sled transport. Even more astonishing is what followed once the stones arrived. These builders didn't simply stack blocks. They carved each stone like a puzzle fragment, shaping complex angles and multi-faced surfaces that locked flawlessly together. At Sacsayhuaman, some single stones interconnect with up to 12 neighboring blocks. Every seam is precise. There's no mortar binding them. Yet, they haven't moved in over 500 years during powerful regional earthquakes. Colonial Spanish churches fractured and collapsed, while the ancient walls remained bending with the shaking as if built with seismic science in mind. This style of stonework is known as polygonal masonry, and it has no real parallel in classical architecture. Modern engineers, including some who have studied the ruins firsthand, openly admit that reproducing these results today would be a logistical and financial disaster. Even with cranes, diamond-coated tools, and computer-aided design, the tool problem is perhaps the most perplexing of all. The Incas and any cultures before them are thought to have had access only to bronze or copper tools, yet the stones they shaped, including andite and diorite, are harder than those metals. In modern terms, it's like attempting to carve glass using a plastic spoon. Geologists confirm that shaping diorite requires tools with hardness equal to or greater than the stone itself. There is no archaeological evidence, no discovered tools, no smelting sites, no residue that explains how these extremely hard stones worked so precisely. The cutting marks add another layer of mystery. Some stones display long, smooth cuts, similar to those produced by modern circular saws. Others feature perfectly flat faces and sharp 90-degree angles as if processed by industrial milling machines. In several locations, blocks even appear to show signs of having been softened or molded. A prime example is the stone of 12 angles in Cusco. It fits so tightly among surrounding stones and with such complexity that many believe it wasn't carved at all, but shaped while soft like clay. Yet no natural process or chemical reaction is known to soften diorite without extreme industrial heat or powerful acids, neither of which existed in ancient Peru. And still the stones remain. Some researchers suggest ancient builders may have used a lost method to temporarily change the molecular structure of stone, possibly through sound frequencies or high-temperature techniques. Others propose unknown plant-based chemicals that could have allowed stone to soften. In the 20th century, Peruvian explorer and biologist Percy Fawcett documented indigenous legends of a plant capable of softening stone, and similar accounts appear in Amazonian folklore. But scientific confirmation has never surfaced. There's more. Certain stones at Tambo contain notches that appear machine-made. At Sacsayhuaman, some blocks show scoop-like depressions that look as if massive sections were removed using a tool the size of a human torso. Smooth, uniform, and strangely symmetrical. These markings don't match the rough chipping expected from handheld tools. Beyond that, these enormous structures weren't only strong, they were intelligently functional. Drainage channels, slope calculations, and water flow systems were carved directly into the stone. Terraces weren't ornamental. They controlled rainwater and prevented landslides. At Machu Picchu, a concealed water system still functions flawlessly today. Such planning demands not just advanced geological and hydrological knowledge, but long-term environmental foresight. Some argue the builders relied on cleverness, labor, and time, but this explanation falls apart quickly. With the tools and techniques typically assigned to them, many of these structures would have required generations to complete. The Incas, whose civilization emerged in the 13th century, simply didn't have that time. More importantly, they never claimed to have built these megaliths. According to their own oral traditions, they inherited them from earlier peoples. The deeper the investigation goes, the clearer the conclusion becomes. These structures were not born from trial and error, luck, or raw force. They were engineered, planned, and executed with a level of skill and knowledge that surpassed anything else in the ancient world, and in some cases may even rival our own today. So if the tools don't align and the timeline fails to match, what does science conclude? What happens when archaeologists, geologists, and engineers begin examining these structures under close scrutiny? What ancient records and science reveal? For all the mystery surrounding Peru's megalithic ruins, perhaps the most ignored truth is this: the Inca never claimed to have built them. In fact, when Spanish conquistadors arrived during the 16th century and stared in awe at the cyclopean stone walls of Cusco and Sakayan, they asked the Incas how such construction was achieved. The answer was always the same and unmistakably clear: these already existed before us. The Inca, widely admired for their architectural talent, did create remarkable works, terrace networks, temples, and roads. But their masonry, while impressive, falls short when compared to the older, larger, and more precisely shaped stones forming the foundations of many sacred sites. In many places, Inca structures are built directly atop or around far older stonework. This layered construction tells a quiet but powerful story. What lies beneath came first, and it was stronger, smarter, and more advanced. So what does science say? Dating stone itself is impossible using carbon-based techniques like radiocarbon dating. Stone holds no organic matter to measure decay, but archaeologists can date nearby organic remains: wood, charcoal, bones found within construction layers or between stones. And when this is done, the results often clash with accepted timelines. In several instances, carbon samples taken near the lowest layers of ancient walls date thousands of years earlier than the Inca Empire. Some evidence suggests human activity in the Andes stretching back 4,000 to 5,000 years, possibly even longer. While this doesn't definitively identify who built the megalithic walls, whose massive stone structures may conceal secrets older than the Inca themselves, it strongly indicates advanced human presence long before the Inca rose to power. Geologists have also joined the discussion. Analysis of stone types used at major sites reveals complex logistical challenges. For example, many stones at Ollantaytambo originated across a river and up a steep mountainside several kilometers away. Transporting multi-tonon blocks from that location to the site without steel tools, wheels, or cranes remains difficult even today. Terrain studies show no evidence of large roads, ramps, or mechanical systems that could explain how this was done. The landscape itself resists traditional transport explanations. Even more puzzling are the tool marks or their absence. Under microscopic examination, some stone surfaces appear unnaturally smooth, as if machine polished. Others display markings consistent with high-speed rotary cutting, something unattainable with bronze tools or stone hammers. A peer-reviewed 2022 study published in a geoscience journal analyzed surface grooves across multiple Peruvian sites and concluded they could not have been produced by standard chiseling methods alone. The researchers avoided proposing explanations, but their conclusions left the question open. Further research into unknown stone shaping techniques is necessary. Satellite imagery and LAR scanning have also transformed how these sites are studied. Beneath the earth of the Sacred Valley and nearby highlands, concealed patterns are appearing. Geometric designs, buried terraces, and even vast underground chambers. Some of these formations reflect the shapes and orientations of the visible ruins, pointing to an organized urban plan rather than isolated temples. At Sakai Juan, LIDAR uncovered underground passages and large hollow spaces beneath the fortress, possibly tunnels or water systems that remain unexplored. If accurate, it suggests what stands above ground is only a small piece of a far greater engineered complex. Then there are the astronomical alignments. Locations such as Machu Picchu and the Cororicha Temple in Cusco are positioned with astonishing accuracy to solstices, equinoxes, and celestial cycles. The Coricancha especially rests on a megalithic base aligned to the June solstice sunrise within a fraction of a degree. Achieving this requires more than observation. It demands exact engineering. No rough estimates, no experimentation, just precise calculation. In recent years, some archaeologists have started openly questioning the established timeline. In 2024, a round at the University of San Marcos in Lima brought together specialists in archaeology, geology, and civil engineering. Several attendees acknowledged an emerging agreement. There are unresolved questions that current historical models cannot explain. These are not fringe voices. They are qualified researchers following physical evidence. The real mystery may not be who built these structures, but how they accomplished it with the resources believed to exist at the time. If the timeline is flawed, the tools inadequate, and the builders not Inca, then what civilization held the knowledge and capability to achieve this beyond human capability? Theories anchored in reality? By this point, one fact stands out clearly. Peru's megalithic ruins stretch far beyond what traditional history claims ancient humans could accomplish. The stones are too massive, the cuts too exact, and the engineering too sophisticated. So if the Inca didn't construct these enormous foundations, and if even modern technology would struggle to reproduce them today, then who did? The first step toward a meaningful answer is releasing outdated assumptions. For more than a century, mainstream archaeology has leaned on a linear model of human history. The idea that civilization advances slowly and steadily from simple to complex. But what if that model is incomplete? What if highly advanced knowledge once existed within isolated cultures, now erased by time? One theory gaining increasing attention among both professional and independent researchers is that a pre-Incan civilization with advanced technical understanding once flourished in the Andes long before written history. This wouldn't imply modern technology like lasers or machines, but rather a deep mastery of materials, physics, astronomy, and natural forces. Some propose that this unknown culture developed stonework methods that later vanished from the historical record. Whether through vibration-based softening, thermal treatment, or plant-derived chemical processes, the evidence suggests these builders had ways to manipulate stone at a molecular scale. This idea isn't unfounded speculation. Across other ancient sites worldwide, including Baalbek in Lebanon, Gobekli in Turkey, and the Great Pyramids of Egypt, we observe the same pattern. Enormous stones, unexplained precision, and missing origin narratives. These sites are separated by vast distances, yet they share a striking architectural signature, almost as if different cultures were applying versions of a lost global science. Consider this. Ancient societies across the world passed down stories of predecessors of golden ages destroyed by catastrophe. The Inca spoke of Viracha, a godlike being who emerged after a great flood to restore civilization using unknown abilities. This was the southern gateway into Cusco, functioning like a bottleneck. To enter, one had to pass through it. The Greeks told of Atlantis. The Sumerians recorded advanced beings in the Epic of Gilgamesh. These accounts may not be literal histories, but they hint at a shared memory of something greater, a worldwide disruption followed by rebuilding. If such an event occurred, a massive natural catastrophe, for instance, it could have wiped out entire civilizations, leaving behind only their most durable creations. Stone doesn't decay or burn, it survives, and that may be all that remains of a once thriving society. Walls, foundations, and forgotten knowledge embedded in their design. Does that sound implausible? Modern science is beginning to explore the possibility. In 2023, researchers from the University of Oxford published a paper examining technological amnesia. The concept that certain skills or technologies can be lost over generations due to disaster, migration, or societal collapse. They referenced Peru's megalithic ruins as a case study, suggesting ancient stonework techniques may have existed, but were never recorded or remembered. Another perspective involves acoustic engineering. At several Peruvian sites, including Ollantaytambo and the Temple of the Sun, researchers have documented unusual acoustic effects. Claps or voices echo back with unnatural clarity, implying intentional sound design. Could sound have been used not only for ceremony, but as a construction tool? Laboratory experiments show that specific sound frequencies can, under certain conditions, move or fracture materials. While still experimental, this aligns with ancient legends describing songs or tones capable of moving mountains. Then there is the idea of magnetic manipulation. Some stones at ancient sites register small yet notable magnetic anomalies. One hypothesis suggests builders understood natural magnetism well enough to apply it during construction, possibly for balancing or lifting stone. Again, the science is still developing, but the patterns exist, waiting for explanation. Crucially, none of these theories rely on aliens, magic, or science fiction. Instead, they point to a simpler and more unsettling conclusion. Human history is deeper and more complex than we are taught. Advanced knowledge doesn't always come with skyscrapers or electricity. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, carved into stone, misunderstood and overlooked. If these builders weren't primitive and their methods weren't impossible, then perhaps the mystery isn't the ruins themselves. Perhaps it's our understanding that remains incomplete. So, have you visited Peru or these sites? Tell us whether you felt the same way. Share your thoughts below. Subscribe to the channel for more updates.